For English, tienen que esperarse tantito. Bienvenidos a un episodio más de Mezclas Abruptas. Este no es solo un episodio más, es un episodio especial. Les cuento rápidamente. Mezclas Abruptas es mi podcast, yo soy Susana Medina, y en este podcast todos los lunes se libera un episodio donde se tiene una plática o una entrevista a profundidad con alguien del mundo de la música o con un trabajo bien aleatorio o que hace algo bien interesante y sobre lo que yo tengo muchísimas preguntas. Muchas veces a través de esas pláticas entendemos un poquito de su mundo laboral, de su historia de vida, pero sobre todo entendemos sobre los procesos creativos y, más importante aún, entendemos cosas sobre la vida, aunque parezca que estamos hablando de otra cosa. Además, Mezclas Abruptas es un programa de radio que ustedes pueden escuchar todos los jueves a las 3 de la tarde en Ibero 90.9, estación de radio de la Ciudad de México, pero también lo pueden escuchar en línea si ustedes no les llega la frecuencia modulada de Ibero 90.9. A través de Ibero 90.9 y a través del Corona Capital conseguí esta entrevista con Barry Burns, guitarrista, pianista, toca el sintetizador también, y las vocales de Mogwai, una banda increíble. Ahorita les platico más de Mogwai. Esta entrevista salió inicialmente en Ibero 90.9 al aire y aquí pueden escucharla completa, obviamente con sus subtítulos en español en YouTube. Si ustedes están en una plataforma de audio y no le hacen tanto al inglés o no le están agarrando la onda al acento escocés, porque pues son escoceses, pueden cambiarse a YouTube y ahí está con subtítulos, ¿ok? Gracias al Corona Capital por esta entrevista. No olviden ir al Corona Capital si quieren y tienen la oportunidad. Es el 14, 15 y 16 de noviembre acá en la Ciudad de México con un cartel épico, pero súper épico porque Mogwai está ahí. Entonces, ya que saben todo esto, este es un episodio especial donde les voy a presentar esta entrevista. ¿Qué es Mogwai? Mogwai es una de mis bandas favoritas. Se formaron inicialmente en Glasgow, Escocia, en 1995 y es una de las bandas más influyentes y definitorias del género post-rock. En realidad es reconocido como rock instrumental también. Son maestros de usos de dinámicas extremas, silencio y crescendos épicos que construyen narrativas poderosas sin apenas usar letras, que era lo que les decía. Llevan casi 30 años de carrera y su discografía es un referente. Tienen álbumes súper aclamados como el Young Team y tienen mucho éxito creando bandas sonoras de cine y televisión. Han demostrado ser verdaderos artesanos del sonido como atmosférico y son capaces de narrar un montón de emociones solo con instrumentación. Regresando a este 2025, más bien empezando este 2025, Mogwai regresó con un nuevo álbum de estudio que se llama The Bad Fire. Lo lanzaron en enero y el título es como una expresión en escocés coloquial que significa infierno. Así le dicen al infierno, The Bad Fire. Este álbum refleja una colección de canciones cinemáticas y melódicas, pero que según la banda buscan ser un rayo de esperanza en tiempos difíciles. ¿Por qué? Porque cuando ellos estaban haciendo este disco estaban pasando por una serie de pérdidas, estaban pasando por el proceso de una enfermedad que tuvo la hija de Barry, que ahorita nos va a contar un poquito al respecto, y pues nada, crearon un álbum que los sostuvo a ellos y nos va a sostener ahora a nosotros. En este episodio platicamos obviamente de cómo va a ser su presentación en el Corona Capital, pero la verdad es que yo me enfoqué más en las típicas entrevistas de Mezclas Abruptas, donde pues empezamos con el típico jueguito para que se rompa el hielo y se sienta cómodo platicando conmigo. Hablamos también de el poder de la música instrumental para evocar emociones y que muchas veces es mucho más balcón que la música que tiene letras, revela más sobre lo que los músicos están pasando. Platicamos también sobre cómo yo tenía un prejuicio de que el rock instrumental o el post-rock era como cerebral y para gente súper inteligente y que en realidad son puras emociones bien crudas. Entonces hablamos sobre el balance de la intelectualidad, de la emocionalidad a la hora que ellos están haciendo música. Hablamos sobre su trabajo con John Congleton, que es uno de mis productores favoritos y que en este disco de Bad Fire trabaja con ellos. Hablamos sobre el setting ideal para que alguien conozca este nuevo álbum de estudio. A mí me tocó en el camino al Festival Hipnosis. Lo escuché todo mi traslado en el metro y estuvo interesante. Fue una muy buena compañía. Y nada, hablamos sobre su ciudad, Glasgow, y hablamos también sobre nadar. Fue una gran entrevista. Ahorita que me escucho a mí hablar, digo, es un poquito muy abrupto, muy mezclas abruptas. Espero que les guste. Por ahí al principio se perdió un poquito la señal de mi internet. Gracias, Infinitum. Se Se perdió un poquito la señal y creo que se perdió la primera pregunta, pero ya empezando con ese jueguito con el cual yo usualmente rompo el hielo cuando entrevisto músicos, lo primero que le pregunté es que si volvieran a nacer en otra dimensión donde todos somos instrumentos y él tiene conciencia de quién es y siente y sabe, como qué instrumento le gustaría nacer. Y nada, la sorpresa te sorprenderá, estuvo chistosa, estuvo rara, pero también estuvo bien divertida. Escuchen la entrevista, quédense acá en Mezclas Abruptas. Cuando acabe el episodio, por favor, busquen los otros episodios que han salido últimamente. Está por ahí una entrevista con una plática, un cotorreo, una improvisación, un episodio sin escaleta con esa mi Pau, empresaria del perreo, DJ y locutora. También hay una entrevista con Marion Reimers, deportista y también periodista de deportes, sobre gritonearse o más bien discutir con señores en la televisión por deporte y por otras cosas. Y también está una entrevista con las creadoras de contenido y podcasters de terror, morras malditas, alrededor de lo que verdaderamente da miedo y cómo solo las amigas te ayudan a sobrevivir los terrores de la vida. Están chidas las entrevistas, pero bueno, por lo pronto ahorita se quedan con Barry Burns de Mogwai y espero que lo disfruten mucho.
Mezclas Abruptas con Susana Medina.
Hello, Barry. My name is
Hello.
Susana. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm very happy to be talking to you. Just real quick. So I have this show that's named Mezclas Abruptas, which means or translates as abrupt mixes. It's mainly about music, and I also interview people that do random stuff. It's a podcast and it's also a radio show. So I might be asking weird questions, but it's sort of like the tradition of the show. And yeah, we're going to be talking about the record and obviously your show in Corona Capital. So
Okay.
this is the first weird question. It's just a warm-up question, but it's a game, okay? So let's pretend that you are reborn, like it's a rebirth in a world where everyone's an instrument, a musical instrument. And you are
Right.
sort of aware that of who you are, and you have a conscience and you have feelings. And
Right.
I'm giving you the opportunity to choose which instrument would be appropriate or you would like to be like, recreated or reburned
Right. Okay.
as. Just be
Okay.
conscious that, yeah, like the way people play instruments or treat you, you have to consider that.
The answer is a bass trombone. That's not very well known instrument. It sounds horrendous, but I think that my voice sounds pretty horrendous as well, really like nasally and horrible. But I would like to change that to be a bass trombone because it's a big, giant sound, and it's got that thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great answer.
I don't know what that's called. The slide. Yeah, it's got a slide on it. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, fantastic. Second weird question.
Yeah.
So imagine you're abducted by aliens and they tell you, we're studying the human race and we see you playing with your people. We see you doing weird stuff. What do you do? And you say, well, I'm a musician. And they ask you, what's that? Well, I play music. I write music. And they say, what's music? They speak English. They understand Scottish accents as well.
Wow. Unlikely, very
And
unlikely.
and they have great, like they have great hearing, so they can experience sound.
Yeah.
How would you explain music to aliens?
I think I would tell them that it's an organized mess of things that can make you extremely happy, dance,
Okay.
and be sad. Sometimes more than one thing at once. Yeah. A sad dance would be quite weird though, wouldn't it? Like I'm a sad dancer. I don't know. That would make me sad.
I've always said, yeah.
I don't know. I think that's. I try to keep it short for them and then play them some music.
Fantastic. So what would you play to them? Like say, hey, play something. You just have your Spotify and for some reason you can't connect to the space Bluetooth.
What would I play them? Oh man, that's a good question. Well, I would try and keep it I'd try and keep it somehow melodic. Wow, why? I mean, you'd probably go for something from earlier music. I would go for like something really bombastic. Or what about Beethoven's Fifth? You've got to do that one. Da, da, da,
Okay, okay.
da, and then be like, "That's brilliant. I love this." And there's maybe a bass
Fanta-
trombone in there. Maybe I don't know.
that would be fantastic. So, okay, so they're like, for how long have you been doing this? And you say over 25 years? Is it like, yeah.
Mhm.
And they say that's a lot of time for humans. What's the point of creating music for so long? Why are you still doing it?
'Cause I was not very good at school. They would surely understand. There must be some stupid aliens as well, you know? They'd be like, "Oh, yeah, we've got that problem on whatever planet that we live on."
we
But I
got
don't know.
we got those two.
Yes, we've got idiots.
That's funny that you related that to intelligence because when they told me at the radio station, no, wait. So when they told me at the radio station, hey, you like Mogwai, would you like? I've worked as a music journalist for over I don't know almost 20 years.
Mhm.
And they asked me like, "Hey, do you want to? We're sure you like Mogwai. Would you like to interview him?" And I was like, "For sure." And so I recalled. Well, one of my favorite songs from Mogwai is "Remurdered,"
Mhm.
and because of it, I created a playlist named "Brainy" for some reason. Like it was, I said like they do the kind of music that really smart people listen to, and I
I don't
think
know.
it's very cerebral and it's very like it's complex and everything. So that's the idea I had of you like met so many years ago, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's a lot of instrumental music and like weird rock and especially rock and but the ones that take their time, the ones that probably are not focused on lyrics, like that kind
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
and I thought it was complex and for smart people. And then when they told me I was going to interview you, I like revisited, like I started listening to the This Is Mogwai, playlist. And
Yeah.
I was like, that was a weird box to put them in. Um, because I think it's absolutely emotional, and I think that's
Uh-huh.
like sort of the cycle of growing up and getting older,
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
think that being smart or like being cerebral or whatever is better than being emotional.
Yeah.
And now I'm like sometimes your brain is not like nice to you, and sometimes your
Ye
feelings are nicer to you, and you
yeah.
start to accept your feelings and how you are. So it's a very personal journey, but I believe it's like common to other people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I
And
think, yeah, go on, go on.
no. I mean, if yeah, go ahead. My
No, I was
question
just gonna
was
say, like,
mainly
yeah. Sorry, I'm interrupting again.
the balance of like feelings and what's visceral and thinking and overthinking while creating music.
Yeah.
What's it like for you in the band? But I think you had something to say.
No, I think it was pretty much the answer to that. I think that when we make it, we're never cerebral at all. I think it's much more instinctive how we make the music. It's never really talked about as well. We never have conversations with each other about the music. We just trust each other to do your part. And that could be a very repressed Scottish work ethic in there. I don't really know. Like, but I mean, I have been in bands where every note was talked about, and you're like, "Come on, man, can we just play the songs?" And it's like the good thing about Mogwai is it's just you go into the studio and or the rehearsal space and you play the music and you don't really think about it, and we don't have any concepts ever. It feels like it would be pretentious for us to do that, so we just play music. I like maybe a punk band, but not that kind of music at all. Like, it's not like punk
Yeah.
music at all, but it's played like that. So yeah, it's never thought about, and it's very repressed.
Fantastic. I was recently during the summer. I was in Glasgow and Edinburgh,
Oh, cool.
and I really like Scots. Like, you're pretty cool.
They're
You're
funny
really
people.
nice,
Yeah,
very funny.
yeah.
And they told me I could be an honorary Scot, but I would have to say I instead of yes.
Yes, that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, well, at some point I said like I was on this tour in Edinburgh, and they said like I said yes to something, and he turned around and like the guide and said like he looked at me like in such a horrible way, and I was like, I don't know, I'm Mexican. I'm not English, I promise.
I mean, it's
Like, it
such
was,
it's a weird word to say, isn't it? Like, it's just so natural for us to say it, but when you say it, I'll catch myself doing it in interviews with non-Scots, and then I'll be like, "Oh, they don't know what that means." Usually, people will be like, or some people in the north of England say that too, but it's mostly very Scottish, and it's like, but it's just such a great word. I love it.
it, it was fantastic. I was very happy to be in Glasgow. So many of my favorite bands are from there. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was cool. So talking about instrumental music, like the other day I was thinking about, because obviously you have songs with lyrics and there's that, but there's also like mainly instrumental. It's more focused on like the music more than the lyrics. That's how I
Mhm.
feel it, and that's how I've seen your
Mhm.
music throughout the years. And recently I was thinking that instrumental music sometimes is more revealing about what you're feeling that the ones that have lyrics or have like very lyric focused, because that way like
Mhm.
you can state what you were trying to
Yeah.
say, like, and like how people understand music. But instrumental music, like if you're trying to hide a feeling, it's unavoidable. Like
Yeah.
people would know what you guys were going through.
Maybe. I don't know. It's so weird because the music that we make, it's very difficult to step back from it and see what that actually sounds like. Like, it's not, if I write a song and I finish it and I give it to the band, to me, it's just a song that I've given them, and then we'll play it live or we'll put it on record, and then people will tell us, "Oh, this makes me think of this," or "This is really emotional," but it's nothing that we ever talked about, and it's not something that I must be unconsciously trying to do something there, but it's not something that I would write down and say, "This has to be this emotion," or it's never spoken about, and I think I can
Yeah,
speak for the band, the other 2 guys who write songs. I don't think they think like that either, so I don't know, I th and but you're
yeah,
right, I think if anything's got lyrics in it, then you're sort of channeled down to thinking about something a certain way,
yeah.
and with our music, it's just kinda raw, I suppose, and that's a shit word, but it's like, it's is it pure? I don't know, it's less sort of contaminated with any lyrics and stuff like that.
Yeah. So my
Not
first listen, yeah,
not
I mean,
contaminate. Contaminate is a terrible word for it, but you know what I mean, I think.
yeah. It suggests something.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So my first listen of the Bad Fire, it was yesterday. I was on the subway on my way to a music festival named Hypnosis, and
Mhm,
I was going to see Deaf Heaven and Spiritualized and the Buddha's Band and Dinosaur Jr. Right, and
mhm,
I was at the subway at this. There's a one for only exclusive for women in Mexico. That's
mhm,
how the subway has that in case you
mhm.
have like weird men around. So I was there, and I listened like the whole way to the festival, even outside. Like it went. It came with me on my trip, and I was wondering. Then I was reading about it and how it's mainly a record that all of you and many members of the band were going through hard times,
Mhm.
and it's sort of like a great record for someone that's going through a bad time. I wasn't going through that, but I was centered, like I was going through a cool thing in my life, right? That something
Right.
cool was going to happen, right? And I really liked high chaos. I think it's a
Yeah.
fantastic song. That's the one I liked. And I don't know, like I was thinking of this contrast, and I was thinking if you I mean, what's the ideal setting for this record? Like if someone is like if you would like someone to listen to it for the first time, how if you could create
Yeah.
that setting for them?
Fuck. Swimming.
Swimming.
Yeah.
the the backfire swimming, yeah,
Yeah,
so
you
they
gotta
they'll
keep
get
it,
burned.
yeah. Yeah. Why not? I mean, there's always a problem when you try to listen to music when you're swimming and that you can't. So, I want
Yeah.
it to it's very difficult, so I want it to be a new experience where you can actually really hear music while you're swimming. That would be amazing. I just went for a swim, that's why I said that. I've just been swimming in the hotel pool. But yeah, that would be nice. I always feel like it'd be really nice to listen to music properly when you're swimming and you can't do it. So,
You
yeah.
can't. There are
Yeah.
no headphones or anything that work underwater, so
You could get those
yeah,
bone ones but they
yeah.
don't sound good, and you get
Yeah.
that like blub 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 blub. It's not
it's
unpleasant.
It's a collaboration work.
Yeah.
um, and I mean, I found out that the producer of this record is John Congleton, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I really like many of his work. Like, and he's produced so many artists, and then I thought, like, these are like two super experienced group of people. Like John Congleton and Mogwai, and they've been doing songs for so many years. They have so many albums, and they work with so many people. And I don't know. I mean, why was he your choice? Like, we're
Well,
already like so experienced at the best. We should work with more of the best.
yeah, no, I mean, it was a bit of it was a funny one because like, so I couldn't travel at the time because my daughter was really sick. So we were going to go and do it with
Okay.
Dave Fridman again. And then
Okay.
Dave doesn't travel, so he wouldn't come over to Scotland. He likes to use his studio. So he was like, no, we'll do the next one with you or something. And so we were like, who do we like? And I loved that Angel Olsen record that John did. And Stuart suggested John, and we were like, right, let's get him over. So he came over to Scotland to do it, just on the fact that we liked a few of his records, and he was from the sort of Steve Albini school of recording.
Yeah.
And he really is, because when we got there, it was like we'd never worked so fast ever. It was like 3 songs in one day. I remember one day we did 3 songs, and I was like, this is crazy, because he just wants to do that whole, like, this is a photograph, let's move on. And it was like a really quite interesting way to work. It's not, I don't know if it suited everyone in the band. Like our drummer Martin found that quite difficult, because he likes to spend time on it, but it was just a really fast experience. And then the mixing was completely different from what we recorded as well. So that really, it was nice to work with someone that just is fast and just wants to get it down on tape, not tape, a computer. These- yeah.
Do you think you brought in chaos to the way you usually work?
It was quite chaotic, yeah. It was because we only had 2 weeks to do it, which actually we did it in less than that because it was so fast. But it was very urgent. It was an urgent thing to do, and we wanted to get it done. And Stuart decided at the very beginning of the recording process that he was going to move house. So we're just like, man, what are you doing? So he was like having to leave. It was proper chaos. That's probably where that song title came from, actually.
Yeah. That was what I was gonna say, because okay, so the way I listen to music sometimes is I just like leave the phone away, and if something really catches my attention, I go and see which song it was, and I add it to
Yeah,
one of my playlists. Yeah, I'm a playlist person, and
yeah,
I'm obsessed with that. And the first, like, when I listened to Chaos, it was like, I really like this song, and I know it's not one of his singles, but I think was so evocative, and it's that sort of an invitation to like receive whatever's happening in your life and just like embrace it and go through it, swim
yeah,
through it maybe.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I like swimming too. And yeah, well, I mean, I wanted to, like, for you to tell me the story behind that song, but also like use this sort of invitation thing to tell us what we can expect from Mogwai at Corona Capital.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so that's it.
It's the only song that I wrote on the album on a guitar. Like, I usually stick to synthesizers, pianos and stuff like that. But that was the first song that I wrote for the album process, and it was just as my daughter was getting better. And I just went down to the studio one day, and I detuned some of the strings, because I'm not a guitar, I'm not an expert on the guitar, but I like to play it. But I have to make it work for me, and I tuned the strings down and just started playing, trying to do really weird things with my fingers. I don't know why I did that. And then this little thing came out of it, and I was like, all right. And it took me about 3 weeks to play it because I'm so shit at the guitar. But it was like, I have to get this done. I think it's a good song. And then yeah, that was it. Then I started to put all the other stuff on top of it, and it turned out quite nice. I don't know. So we're going to play it at Corona Capital, by the way. We'll be
Yes,
playing that, yeah. So that'll
fantastic.
probably be the second song as far as the set lists have been going. So yeah, play it. Just for you, of
So
course. Just for you.
thank you so much, and for everyone who's listening to the podcast or the radio show, like, that's the song they should expect, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're playing High Chaos.
Have you done Corona Capital before? I think I
Yeah,
searched
yeah,
that
yeah,
for
yeah.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
great. It was great the last
Uh-huh.
time we played. It was fantastic. Yeah.
And what's your expectation for like this time?
It'll be slightly better.
Definitely.
just like how life isn't.
Yeah. Do you think life doesn't get better?
Oh, it's getting so bad, this timeline, isn't it? I agree. I've had enough. I've had enough.
That's I mean, I think that's proper Scottish sense of humor, right?
Yeah, everything's getting worse and no one can do anything about it.
So maybe just to finish,
Mhm.
as I was telling you, during the summer I went to London and Belfast and
Mhm.
Dublin and then Glasgow and Edinburgh, and it was really cool.
Mm.
Um, I am I am I don't know if like I knew so much about like your culture, obviously, since it's so influential around the world, and there's so many bands I like from Scotland. But it was really like I found out I didn't know anything about the
Oh,
British
really?
Isles.
All
Like
right.
it was especially in terms of politics, and like it was like,
Right, right.
oh,
Yeah, yeah,
like the
yeah.
idea we get from like UK, it's like it's so different, and from
Mhm,
what like you speak to people and how you see everything works, right?
mhm, mhm.
And what I loved about Glasgow, like my idea was like, okay, so Belle and Sebastian is from there, so I'm gonna like look up to what would they do, whatever, And then I found out like Glasgow is one of the biggest music cities in the world,
Yeah.
and probably growing up there and developing music there, and all that, it was, I don't know, it was like a great head start, as a musician for you. So just wanted to like ask you about your city and what you feel for it, and if you still consider it to be, if it is somehow influential. And
Yeah. Yeah, it was amazing growing up there because we would see, but in fact, Alex, the singer from Franz Ferdinand, he used to be a promoter, and he would put on. I think he put on the first Mogwai show. I wasn't at it, but
okay,
so it was such a tiny, not tiny. It was a big music scene, but it was a small city, and everybody knew each other. And at that time, everybody was really supportive of each other. I don't know. I can't speak for everyone now because there'll be a lot of young bands that I don't know them, but we were very supportive of each other, and it was a nice scene. And the good thing was, sometimes you'll find that cities have bands that kind of sound like each other, but in Glasgow that was seen as taboo. You cannot sound like another band. You have to sound completely
yeah,
different, and that was a nice thing because it was like nobody sounded like anyone else. There was a little bit of crossover, but it was kind of frowned upon for it to be two copy bands. Like, not it's not a good thing. So that was a really that was great for creative stuff because people would just be doing stuff that no one else had heard before, and very a lot of small venues where you could go and see bands every night, which was great. So it was great.
yeah,
I loved it. And then eventually I moved away about 13, 14 years ago. I moved to Germany for 12 years. And then
okay,
eventually I came back, and Glasgow had changed quite a lot, but I still love it. Like, it's still a great place to live, and the people, that's what is the funny. It's the best thing about it is the funny people. It's just pathos and sarcasm and just all these things that I like, and it's yeah, great people. It's not a very
yeah,
beautiful city unless you look
it
up and
is,
see. Well, when you look up, it's beautiful because all these beautiful old buildings, but at street level, it's not particularly nice like Edinburgh is. Edinburgh's like Harry Potter or
yeah,
something like that. But
yeah, it's sort of
yeah,
magical.
it's magical, but completely cultureless.
I, 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 I had to, when I was in Edinburgh, it was the festival. What's the name of the festival?
Oh, the Fringe and the Edinburgh Festival,
The
yeah,
French, yeah.
yeah.
And then there were Oasis shows
Mm,
while I was there in Edinburgh. So it
yeah,
was unbearable.
yeah. Yeah, it's got a bad vibe.
It was just so many people, and to be honest, like I don't know, I felt more of a connection with Glasgow, and reading about its music scene and everything.
Yeah.
I felt like probably I should come back and do more of the shows, because I wanted to go to this venue that I can't remember, the woo woo, the
Wawa
like
Hut.
the Wawa.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there were tons of kids there, like Gen Z alphas. I don't know what they are.
I know.
And it was sold out, so I couldn't see the venue. That is
It's
like
fine.
historic.
It's a weird one. It's
Fine.
like one of those ones where you see the band and then there's this sort of L-shaped thing, and it's a
Okay.
weird venue. I've never really liked it, but I can understand that it's a real sort of kindling for young bands to start there, because
Yeah.
loads of people go there, and it's seen as a sort of tourist thing as well. So
Yeah.
you always get a busy show. There's always a busy show, so it's a good place to see a band.
Yeah.
But there's so many other venues that I would prefer to go to.
Well,
you know.
you will be at Corona Capital, and there's going to be so much people and Mexicans there.
I hope
We're
so.
excited to see you play. So
Cool.
thank you so much for the interview.
You're welcome.
And, yeah. Nice meeting
all right,
you.
Take care. You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Mezclas Abruptas con Susana Medina. Sigue o suscríbete a este podcast para recibir un nuevo episodio cada semana. Deja una reseña, de preferencia 5 estrellas. Excelente servicio. Y si quieres seguir la conversación, busca @Mezclas Abruptas. Mezclas Abruptas. O @SuzyRain, SUZY, Rain de lluvia en inglés. En Twitter o Instagram. Mezclas Abruptas con Susana Medina.